thought I'd take a few minutes to talk to you about my book. Well, books. I now have a new one. So this is my original book, Business Litigation, Demystified. And then I just came out with this one. Now this is the proof copy, so it's got a line in front of it, but it's called Business Litigation, Demystified Discussion Guide. And so I just thought I'd talk a little bit about the purpose of these things and why I went through the effort to write these. Business Litigation Demystified I wrote in 2020. And my thought at the time was that there needed to be some kind of background guide that would explain to litigants primarily, so it could be CEOs, it could be in-house counsel that maybe don't have a litigation background or want a refresher or want an overview. And it could also be CFOs who actually have to supervise litigation but don't know much about the litigation process. Also, people that were in foreign companies where they don't have systems like ours. Anyway, all of these people would benefit from having just a basic background of the litigation process, because once you get into it, a lot of times you're just talking with your counsel about what the next step is, and you don't really get a good overview of the entire process, because of course there are a lot of variables that go on along the way, and so it would be hard for somebody to sit down and sort of give you a soup to nuts explanation of the entire process. That's what this book seeks to do. I looked all over Amazon to see if I could find any book that really accomplished what this one does, and I couldn't find anything. They were mostly written for lawyers, and what I wanted was something that any layperson, a high school student, a college student, a business school student would read this book and totally get our basic procedure here in the United States litigating. It's not jurisdiction specific, it's not about state or federal court, it just is an overview. And what I found is that this book had a lot of uses over time. So, I noticed this from the reviews that I got on Amazon, where people wrote pretty detailed reviews about how this book wound up helping them. And then sometimes I'll just be talking with people and I'll find out a new use. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I had lunch with an associate and she said, "I read your book." And I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." I said, "What were your thoughts?" She's a mid-level associate at my firm. So someone who absolutely knows litigation and probably knows all the stuff in this book right away, right? So why is she reading my book? What she said is, I read it with an eye toward how I would advise clients in the future. And when I am advising clients, or as I am having, as I'm called on to explain procedure to clients at a more advanced level, how would I explain it to them in a way that is understandable, but not so complex that it just becomes overwhelming for them. And so I did not realize that would be a use for this book, but indeed it is. Foreign counsel has also been very interested in the book, because there are things about our system that frankly are mysterious to foreign systems that don't use these same procedures. For example, the concept of discovery in the United States, it's very broad. It's meant to encompass pretty much everything relevant to the litigation, and to foreign eyes that don't have any discovery whatsoever, it can be really oppressive and quite threatening and intrusive, right, to their employees. And so this book helps to explain why we have, what are those tools? What are the discovery tools? What are the checks and balances on that process to make sure that they're not overly intrusive? How do you use them, foreign company, to make sure that your litigation needs are being met? And so that's the kind of thing that this book is meant to do. It's meant to just give that background. As time went on, one of the uses for this book that started to become apparent to me is use as a textbook. Many people, particularly students, reached out to me, and also business school and law school students showed a lot of interest in my original book. And so I decided that it would make sense to have it be used as a textbook for perhaps a business litigation course in business school, or an undergraduate course in litigation. Any of that would be kind of a perfect level for this book. And even a law school course, if it's maybe for people that want to be transactional counsel, but they want to know a little something about litigation, this is a great way to learn about it. I realized that there was a need for professors who might not have themselves a litigation background to be able to generate interesting and meaningful discussions around the topics in the book. And so I created the discussion guide, which is designed for professors. It mirrors or parallels the different chapters of the book. So it has 12 chapters itself, and each chapter has 2 to 3 discussion questions that are designed for professors to assign out to students, and then the answers are also in the book, or some answers. Very often there are multiple answers to these things, but some guidance as far as how to then guide the discussion in the classroom are provided in the answers of this book. So this just came out, and already there's been some interest. Well, there's been interest in both books in publishing this in different countries, which I'm really excited about. But I think that the addition of the discussion guide is going to be particularly helpful in terms of making it easy for busy professors to take on this book as a textbook and start using it to generate meaningful discussions around litigation topics. And in the book, I do a bunch of kind of fun things. I talk about how Justice Scalia felt about the 1993 Amendment Safe Harbor provision for Rule 11. I talk about, I show jury instructions and have the students work through what kinds of facts they would need to generate in order to meet the jury instructions, which would prove their claim. I have a fact pattern in here that goes over simple licensing arrangement and a dispute related to the licensing arrangement, and then I have the students go through requests for production and how would they object to those things, and how would they maybe compromise with the other side, so that they get a flavor for what we do every day, so that down the road, if those people are supervising litigation, they will know, oh, I'm familiar with that process. I know why it takes a little time to do those things. They have to be done properly, and that preserves the right to do blah, blah, blah. All of that suddenly stops being mysterious and starts being something that they can use as a tool in their business.